What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this CTE Companion. You see the screen. Today, we will be covering worst UFC fighter comebacks of all time. This is some of the worst. This isn't in any particular order. These aren't the 10 worst of all time. There is going to be 10, but these aren't ranked individually. If you'd like to see a part two, let me know down in the comments section down below. And before we get into it very quickly, I just want to say thank you for all the love and support on the recent videos. I really appreciate it. We're up to 30 subscribers. Our goal is to get to 50 by the end of the month. So if you could please make that happen, I would really, really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys no matter what. Thank you for all the nice comments and all the views and the likes. But let's get right into this. This list was inspired by this recent weekend's past events. That's not an English sentence, but that doesn't really matter. We have, starting off at number one, the most recent one, we got Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway 2. Yeah, I mean, this has been done to death. Everyone's talking about it. I've seen 100 videos on it at this point. All these different conspiracy theories. Was he hurt coming into the fight? Did he hurt it in the back? Did he hurt it on the walkout? Did he look off? He says that he hurt himself in the cage throwing that kick. Obviously, he threw the jumping switch kick and tore his knee. Yeah, this was very sad to see. 35-second, 39-second, whatever. No, minute 3. TKO for Max Holloway because Conor McGregor blew out his knee, doing the first kick of the fight. Tried to fight through it, but was not able to. Yeah, this fight, Conor McGregor, he was coming off a 5-year layoff. His last fight was in 2021 against Dustin Poirier, where he snapped his shin. Hopefully, this is the end of it. I really don't want to see any more. I mean, I'm sure he's going to come back, but this is a sign that it should be done. And holy photo quality warning, but coming in at number 2, we have Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz 2. This fight took place in September of 2021. Another guy in his late 30s, coming off a half a decade layoff. Nick Diaz was coming back at 38 years old. He had been off for 6 years. His previous fight before this was the fight with Anderson Silva. He tested positive for marijuana and received a 5-year suspension, which I believe was brought down to 2 years, but he did not fight for 6. This fight was supposed to be at welterweight, but was moved up to middleweight because Nick Diaz couldn't make weight. I remember at the time there was a little bit of a thing. I believe it was within the month, either before or after. Marvin Vettori versus Paulo Costa. That's the fight I'm looking for. That was moved up from middleweight to light heavyweight because Paulo Costa couldn't make weight. Nick Diaz, I remember the stories and the rumors at the time after this was that Nick Diaz was in huge debt and that he was coming into the fight injured with some herniated discs or a messed up back or whatever it was. And he didn't pull out because he needed the money from the fight. Honestly, he looked really good in this fight. Like I remember watching live that he threw that jumping spinning wheel crescent kick, and then he kind of shot the takedown. I thought it was going to last about a minute longer than that. But Nick Diaz made it to the 3rd round and looked good. His boxing looked pretty good. He was throwing a lot of combinations, high volume. But in the 3rd round, Robbie Lawler clips him with a hook. Nick Diaz goes down holding his knee. Robbie Lawler disengages. Nick Diaz, the referee tries to stand Nick Diaz up, and he never comes up. So it is what it is. Nick Diaz was a plus 185 underdog at the time, so not a huge underdog. People had faith, and it was kind of reflective of that. It was a rather close fight up until that 3rd round, where there was about 45 seconds into the 3rd round, if I didn't say. He didn't look too bad, but he was moving weird. You could tell he was kind of hurt. Anyways, one thing I forgot to say earlier was that not all of these are all UFC fighters, but not all of these comeback or return fights or whatever you want to call it were in the UFC, and not all of them were in MMA, but as I said, these were all UFC fighters. With that being said, next up we have Tyron Woodley versus Anderson Silva. This happened in December 2025. This was 4 years after Tyron Woodley was knocked out by Jake Paul. 43-year-old at the time, Tyron Woodley took on 50-year-old Anderson Silva on an MVP card and got finished, was it a minute 30 into the 2nd round by an uppercut from Anderson Silva. Woodley at the time, this was the weird time where they were supposed to, if you remember this, the GFL, Woodley had been signed by the GFL, but So he was supposed to be making an MMA comeback. That whole thing never came to fruition. He was filming a movie at the time when he got the call, I believe he said on an Ariel Helwani podcast. He was talking it up like he was training. He was coming in to win, but he just didn't look good. I guess boxing's not the sport for Tyrone Woodley. Um, yeah, it is what it is. Next up, number 4, we have Cain Velasquez versus Francis Ngannou. This fight happened in February 2019. A 36-year-old Cain Velasquez, coming off nearly a 3-year layoff, came in as a minus 200 favorite. Actually, that's something that's kind of been lost to time, or the history has been rewritten. People really thought that Cain Velasquez was going to be able to get this one done because Francis Ngannou was public enemy number 1 at the time. He had lost 2 fights in a row. First to Stipe Miocic in a grappling-based decision. We kind of just got held down for 5 rounds once he gassed out. And then he had lost to Derek Lewis in one of the worst fights of all time, where absolutely nothing happened. I don't even remember the fight, so little happened. I'm pretty sure I've seen it at least twice. But yeah, people thought that Cain Velasquez was going to be able to get this one done, but his body had just failed him at this point. He was dealing with back spurs after a litany of injuries. I'm just going to go ahead and list. I found a Reddit post that was talking about a Bleacher Report post. So credit to Bleacher Report. This is just talking about a list of injuries that Cain Velasquez had. So in 2010, he had torn his rotator cuff in the Brock Lesnar fight, needed surgery. In 2011, he tore his meniscus and re-hurt his rotator cuff injury. During the Junior Dos Santos fight in 2013, he tore his labrum, which needed surgery. In 2014, he hurt his hand. Later in 2014, he also tore his meniscus and sprained his MCL, needed surgery on that. And in 2016, he had required surgery on his back. This fight was in 2019. That post was also from 2019, so there might be some injuries in between there that I'm missing, but that's just to give you a little bit of an example of all the things that Cain Velasquez has had to deal with. But yeah, this was just, he was kind of past his prime. He never fought again, thankfully. And yeah, shout out Cain Velasquez. Next up, we have Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. This is I mean, it's a no contest on paper, but Brock Lesnar won this fight, grappling based decision. This is the only one where the guy didn't lose. I mean, there's another one, but that was also overturned. If you know what that is, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, a 38-year-old Brock Lesnar made a comeback at UFC 200 versus number 8 ranked Mark Hunt. He was a little bit of an underdog. This was in July 2016. In the build up to the fight, this is why they said this, so this is why it's so oddly specific. It had been 4 years, 6 months, and 9 days prior, his previous fight. That was against Alistair Overeem when Overeem kicked him in the diverticulitis and finished him with the body shot. This win was overturned to a no contest because he failed a drug test for clomiphene in the pre and in-fight drug testing. He won this by a wrestling-based decision. I think that this is one of the worst comebacks because it really tainted his legacy. This was his first failed drug test, so he had claimed natty. He was a white boy who was jacked. Everyone hated on him. He said, I never failed an effing drug test in my life. He called everyone haters, said they were all crazy and that he wasn't on steroids. But at this point, we got definitive proof that, I mean, the definitive proof is look at him, but we got on paper 100% confirmed that Brock Lesnar was on steroids. So I put this as one of the worst, or I put this on this list because of the concrete proof and the reputational damage. Following this up, we have another no contest, the greatest fighter of all time. No, not Anderson Silva. CM Punk versus Mike Jackson. This was in June 2018, a year and a half later, or after CM Punk's first fight. I went to go back to, sorry. I went to go back and watch this just to see if it was as bad as I remembered. It actually, I only watched the first round. I know when there was all the tickling and stuff, but later. But this is actually not on Fight Pass. This has been scrubbed and erased from history. I had to find this one on YouTube. It was really funny. They're calling CM Punk or CM or whatever on commentary, not Phil Brooks or Brooks like normal. This fight was overturned to a no contest. I mean, Mike Jackson won it, but he popped for marijuana, so this was overturned to a no contest. I mean, he got banned from the UFC after this. It was his second or third last. I mean, he only had 5 or 6 fights, but yeah. Other than that, uh, not much to say. I mean, just a terrible fight. Uh, Next up, we have Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell 3. This happened in 2018. A 48-year-old Chuck Liddell took on a 43-year-old Tito Ortiz. This was 14 years after their first fight, 12 years after the second. Chuck Liddell had won both of those. It was 8 years since his last fight. This was on a Golden Boy promotion show. They did a random MMA event back in 2018. If you don't know, Golden Boy is Oscar De La Hoya's promotion, which is normally a boxing promotion, but they did a one-off MMA event. If I'm being completely honest, I hate to say this, Chuck Liddell by far looked the most out of his prime. Like, compared to his prime self, he looked like he had diminished the most. There's almost nothing happened for the first, for as long as the fight went on, and Tito Ortiz knocked him out in the first. Um, yeah, I mean, it had been 8 years. I believe they tried to make this in like the UFC or something, but the UFC refused. I'm trying to remember the stories at the time. It's been a very long time. This was a little bit after I first got into MMA. I know there's obviously the stories of where Dana White sort of forced Chuck Liddell to retire. He didn't really want to, but Dana White gave him an overpaid job at the UFC. So there is that. And then that job was he was fired due to budget cuts or something. And then he went and fought for the Golden Boy Promotions, and it didn't end well. And thankfully, it's been 8 years since then. He hasn't fought since. Hopefully, he doesn't make a comeback at 56 years old, but you never know. Speaking of making a comeback in your 50s, I had absolutely no idea that this fight happened. I don't think anyone did. I found this while doing research for this video. We have Pat Miletich versus Mike Brown in October 2020. Not Mike Brown, Mike Jackson. Same Mike Jackson that fought CM Punk. I was looking at his Tapology and I found this fight on there. In October 2023, a 55-year-old Pat Miletich came back against Mike Jackson, who was 38 at the time. It had been 15 years since his last MMA fight. I believe he had had a boxing match approximately, maybe it was 2 or less years before this, but it's his last MMA fight. This was for a regional promotion called Caged Aggression, and he looked absolutely amazing. Oh my God. He 10-8'd Mike Jackson in the first round, bombed him with an overhand, took him down, 10-8'd him. He came out of the second looking absolutely gassed. They moved around for a bit, and Pat Miletich took Mike Jackson down again, and he won the first 2 rounds. But he retired on the stool in between rounds. Like, I mean, you see the picture here. He looks quite defeated and tired. But I don't think he got hit more than 5 or 10 times. Like, it was a great performance. I'm not sure if there's like a backstory behind this one, like why Pat Miletich had made a comeback and fought 2 times. I'm sure it has something to do with money. It usually does. But yeah, this was just an absolutely wild one. I had no idea. I've never heard anyone talk about this. So when I found this, I thought that this would be perfect for the list. Yeah, go and watch it. He actually looks fantastic. Following that up, we have number 9, Luke Rockhold versus Darren Till. This was for a Misfits boxing event. Luke Rockhold had some he had some karate and some bare knuckle fights, but we're just gonna call this one the return fight. This was 3 years after he left the UFC. He probably should have been done with striking at that point. I know he lost to Mike Perry in bare knuckle when he got his teeth knocked out, literally. And he had done some karate combat stuff and some grappling matches, but this is his boxing debut. He got knocked out in the 3rd round by an overhand from Darren Till. I mean, Darren Till looked absolutely amazing, but yeah, that was Luke Rockhold's boxing debut and hopefully the end of it. And in our 10th fight, the final one, we have Benson Henderson versus Patrick Ribeiro. This was Benson Henderson's first MMA fight in 3 years. This happened in May 2026, so a little over 2 months ago. Benson Ribeiro fighting in his home country of Belgium. They wanted to give him a big name to feed him to him. He's an 8-0 in MMA fighter in the PFL. And yeah, he knocked out Benson Henderson in the first. This is, I think, literally, this is the punch. Like, they're showing the punch that he knocks him out. It was about 15 seconds right from here. Throws a left hook, drops him, finishes him with some ground and pound. Um, I heard about this. I know not too many people were talking about it. It has under 4,000 views on the actual fight video on YouTube, which was uploaded over a month ago. So I'm not sure how many people are aware of this one either. If you're still here, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, let's try and get up to that 50 subscriber mark. Thank you so much and have a good day.